Okay, so it says Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi. Right? Interesting it has like that. قال الشيخ الأجل الإمام الأوحد أبو إسحاق إبراهيم بن علي بن يوسف الفيروزبادي or the right الشيرازي right قدس الله روحه ونور ضريحه الحمد لله كما هو أهله وصلواته على محمد خاتم النبيين وسيد المرسلين سألني بعض إخواني أن أصنف لهم مختصرا في المذهب في أصول الفقه ليكون ذلك مضافا إلى ما عملت من التبصرة. So I believe the تحقيق. Yeah, here we go. Look, this is very important. Why is that important? تبصرة بتحقيق who?
Sheikh Muhammad Hassan Hito.
Exactly, right? No joke. Like he's one of these, right? Super no joke people. The editor of this book as well is no joke, Mistu, right? So there's, he's also really important as well. So that's an important book. So Jawad, add that to the list. Particularly because, because just passed away. I'm actually teaching this book because of Sheikh Hassan Hito, actually. Right? I was like, subhanAllah, we have to, if somebody passes away, you have to start things going, right? And so, it's important. وما عنده في
لا
التبصرة
التبصرة
the
عفوا.
تبصرة بتحقيق Dr. Muhammad and notice he printed it only recently, right?
Mhm.
19 right, in 1980, right? And he was already 40 years old by then, right? So he also has the Mankhul of Imam Ghazali. That's another kind of the tafsir there. He says, فأجبته إلى ذلك جوابا لمسألته وقضاء لحقه وأشرت فيه إلى ذكر الخلاف وما لا بد فيه من الدليل فربما وقع ذلك إلى من ليس عنده ما عملت من الخلاف فإلى الله تعالى أرغب وإياه أسأل أن يوفقني للصواب ويجزل في الأجر والثواب إنه كريم وهاب. ولما كان الغرض من هذا الكتاب أصول الفقه وجب بيان علم الظن وما يتصل بهما لأن بها يدرك جميع ما يتعلق بالفقه ثم نذكر النظر والدليل وما يتصل بهما لأن بذلك يحصل العلم والظن ثم نبين الفقه وأصول الفقه إن شاء الله تعالى. Right? So this is one of these issues is that people don't even know what they mean when they say they know. Right? So we always hate the phrase philosophy, right? Arabic, they say, الزلمة قاعد يتفلسف, right? This guy's, talking about nonsense. قاعد يتفلسف, like he's talking about philosophy, like yada, yada, yada. But in reality, everybody has a philosophy, right? Like, so if you don't know the difference between I think and I know, there's a problem, right? So you need to define I think, I know, how do you know? What are these things? What does it mean to think about something? You have to define these things. And so, just footnote: have a look at the Mustasfa of Imam Ghazali. It's really interesting, right? About levels of knowing things. Mustasfa of Imam Ghazali, and also, yeah, there's some other books there. Okay. So he starts off with this. He says, باب بيان العلم والظن وما يتصل بهما ونقدم على ذلك بيان الحد لأن به يعرف حقيقة كل شيء كل ما نريد ذكره إن شاء الله تعالى. Right? So this is where mantiq comes in. So when in the books of Usul, we're going to see with the Mustasfa of Imam Ghazali, it begins with a muqaddimah mantiqiyah. Right? Same thing with the Mukhtasar Ibn Hajib, right? So what's going to happen is basically usul. So the way things work is you get mantiq and lugha. These are these two kind of like motherboards, if you want to say, or the two programs that you use on your motherboard, right? And the intaj they create is usul al-fiqh, right? Or sorry, kalam, afwan. They create kalam. Kalam creates usul, usul creates fiqh, fiqh creates qawa'id fiqhiyah. That's the system, that's the programming, right? So without logic and lugha, you can't do anything. Like this just doesn't happen, right? So a Salafi be like, yeah, I'll study lugha, but I'm not going to study mantiq. This is like kufr. This is like the words of like the Hellenists and whatever. They're crazy, right? But traditionally, no, mantiq is important, right? Mantiq is important. So there's mantiq and lugha. These are two kind of like two systems that work together. They create kalam, right? Your muqaddimat kalamiya. What do you believe in as haqq? Okay. From that, we kind of still, because we're still using, because mantiq and lugha, we're going to use it throughout. They're kind of like, you know, two apps that we always use in reality. But from kalam, we're going to get usul. From usul, we're going to get fiqh, i.e. rulings of halal haram, right? We apply the usul to the primary sources. First, we define what the primary sources are, and then we process them through usul, and we get fiqh. And from fiqh, you get qawa'id al-fiqh. Like you got conclusion, and then realize, hang on a minute, there's a system here, and here's a qaida fiqh here. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Was the fiqh known to Imam Shafi'i when he wrote the Risala?
Say it again, Dr. Saleh.
Was the mantiq known
No,
to
By
Imam
so
Shafi'i when
even
he
by the
wrote the
time,
Risala?
even by the like, so even by like Imam Nawawi, so Imam Nawawi, I don't think he studied mantiq.
Right.
So mantiq as core curriculum, mantiq and balagha as core curriculum in the form that we know them is way later. We're talking about 9th century, seventh, 8th, 9th century. So you're a student at college, Azhar, Central Asia, Spain, in the 3rd century, you are not going to be studying mantiq. 4th century, 5th century, it's not going to happen. So what happens is there's certain stages where it's going to come in. So it becomes core curricula with certain people at certain times, and then it becomes, now it's a standard. Now it's like you studied in Indonesia, you studied in Mauritania. Everyone's like, yeah. These are the texts in mantiq, right? And this is what you do.
So the mantiq originated because of something happened in history that it has to come and
Yeah,
defend.
so it basically, I mean, so it became core curriculum and valued over time. It wasn't. So similarly, there's, for example, there's an elm called, like, even balagha, right? So if you're talking about like majaz and balagha, Imam Shafi'i is number one, a poet, number two, a narrator of poetry, and number three, he spoke about certain forms of metaphor, but the science of balagha as we know it today, these are the books and these are the textbooks and these are the ummahat, they did not exist in his time. Didn't exist. So he never taught balagha, nor did he study balagha. In fact, balagha, it's like it reached its teaching stage. Like, here's a textbook that we're going to teach like in the like 8th century, 9th century, right? So so Imam al-Juwayni will use a term or look at something in a way, and we'll look at it like, what's that, Just like, for example, like as a comparison, Imam Nawawi is using medicine, right? And he said medically there's no proof for that, and I'm using medicine, but the medicine that I'm using and what he's using is there's no comparison. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like it's just not, so that's a huge discussion, right? And so Sheikh Hamza Karam Ali has a whole essay on this. He did it when he was working at the Kalam Institute, whatever it is, Kalam for. So if you look it up, Sheikh Hamza Karam Ali, Madrasa or something like that. Like he talks about basically what was core curriculum in the Ottoman period, and what did it lead to? Like, people who did core curricular subject, what did they do? What were they? And how was it useful? Like, how did it come into society? Like, what did these people do? Yeah. But so now that's core curricula across the world. There are certain things, but back then, no. Back then they'd have different books that they would study. Like, even, for example, did Imam Ghazali study the Mustasfa of Imam Ghazali? No, he didn't, right? He didn't study his own textbook. So Imam Ghazali is writing on Usul in a time when Usul is very primitive, right? Because Imam Ghazali, his teacher, Imam Juwayni, Qadi Abdul Jabbar, Qadi Hussein, they put the four pillars, the four most fundamental things of Usul. So Before that, you have these shuruh on the Risala and discussions that are happening. It's fairly primitive. And then the other books came and all those died out. They were kind of like, that's kind of like old and not very useful. And these other things are way more useful and way more, so, more. So yes, there's definitely certain curricular changes and things happening like that. Yeah, 100%. But the issue with
Was it
mantiq though, is it's natural, right? So I can point out an illogical process in anybody in any time, regardless of whether or not he studied mantiq or whether or not he was using mantiq. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, Muhammad Hashir is writing a master's thesis, and I'm like, your conclusion is illogical. It's like, well, whether or not he studied logic doesn't matter. So we don't study logic anymore. Like, you might do it in maths, you might do maths comes in like, but you don't study, you might study in philosophy, but like logic isn't core curriculum in the West anymore. It used to be, right? Aristotelian logic, that was core curriculum, but it's not anymore. But you can still, so the issue is it's not that fundamental, like whether or not you're logical or not, right? And here's just one little chapter. He just says, what is a definition? So definition, that is something that is unique to the topic of mantiq. So we're talking about definitions. When you say A is B, what is that? What is A? You have to define A, and then you have to define B, and then you say A is B, and then B is C, so therefore A is C. Okay, well, what if, so there's conditions for that. I need to know what A is, you need to define it, and then B, and then define it, all right, and then C, and then define it. How do you define? What are the different types of definitions? Like, how do we define things? That's the science of logic. And then a syllogism, when you put statement A plus statement B, can you get to statement C or not? Is that sound? And then other things, if A is B, there's different types of syllogisms and complex syllogisms, etc. But that's what we do. So these are things that are natural. Studying it merely sharpens it, right? It sharpens, but otherwise, like we all do logic, we are either logical or illogical, right? Things are either logical or illogical, regardless of whether, just like things are like mathematics, right? Whether or not you studied mathematics, you're still using maths, and so it doesn't change anything, right?
Is it because like is it similar to the way we have, like, for example, mathematics or even maybe computer sciences or something like that, where we establish like definitions and terms that we use generally all of us, so people will not have different understanding of the terms we are using, like the way during the Sahabas and Tabi'in, like up to that level, there was no
That's something
Arabic.
that's something else. That's to do with the nature of development of societies and how we talk and these kind of things. That's something else, right? But mantiq is basically an actual science, right? So for example, I can ask you a bunch of questions. If I say, for example, or some Kenyans are Muslim. Muhammad is Kenyan. Therefore, he's Muslim. And I say, is that true or not? And you say, no, it's not necessarily true, is it? Because you said some Kenyans are Muslim. Muhammad is Kenyan. Therefore, he may or may not be Muslim. I don't know, because you said some, right? So we have, so this sentence is, A is B, A is not B, some A is B, some A is not B. What you have is you have basically 16 combinations, and they can result in conclusions or not, right? And that's what we're talking about. That's one of these things we're talking about in mantiq. So you could study those 16 combinations and think about them, but you could also do them without thinking. Just like algebra, right? We do algebra without studying algebra, right? But algebra
Yeah, but like
helps us. So algebra helps us do, there's certain things you couldn't do in your head without algebra. You just couldn't do that. So I asked you, 1/2 to the -1. If you understood what to the -1 is, you could actually, obviously it's kind of obvious, you just turned it upside down. That was kind of obvious. But there's lots of things you couldn't do. So lots of things in logic or lots of things in mathematics, you simply couldn't do if you didn't study mathematics, because you have to go through, the process is so complex that you couldn't do it without mathematics, right? So it's the same thing. The study of mathematics is logic is the mathematics of concepts and meanings, right? So it's like it's called all the grammar of meanings, right? And so it's like, it's the same. It's like somebody saying like it's a bid'ah to do logic. It's like saying it's like a bid'ah to do mathematics. But the issue is like, I did mathematics a long time ago. You know, I finished when I was 17. I haven't done mathematics since I was 17. That is 17 years ago. Is it 17 years ago? No, it's 21 years ago, right? I don't care about it. If you said, oh, there's a class, I wouldn't care, right? I wouldn't be interested, right? However, I would be concerned if there was a mufti that didn't know anything about mathematics, right? There's a mufti like, you've never done algebra, right? That's kind of concerning. But the question is, for example, algebra, right, which is obviously Arabic, when did it become core curriculum in the Muslim world? Like every faqih, muhaddith, talib ilm has to do algebra or has to do cones. You know, I don't remember doing cones. Maybe I did. I don't remember studying it, right? But you will find like many of the fuqaha, they have an essay on cones and the volume of a cone and these kind of things, right? But when did that become core curriculum? You know what I'm saying? So that's these issues. There's certain things like core curriculum or ilm al-falak, astronomy, right? Astronomy was core curriculum at certain times, not core curriculum at other times. You know what I'm saying? And you'll see like, oh, historically, in these madaris, they would study it. That was a class that they would do. Or even maqamat, right? So like Sheikh Abdul Malik Sa'di, he's like, yeah, in my madrasa in Iraq, we were tested on singing. Like, can you sing? Like, what? So in certain places, perhaps that became core curriculum. Like, do you know the maqamat? Do you know Siga, Rast, Hijaz, these kind of things or not? You know? So that was core curriculum for him. He was tested on, he was graded on that. Maybe other places in the Muslim world are like that. Well, that's not important to anything. You know what I'm saying? And so knowing the maqamat does develop you as a human being, does help you in general, but how essential is it? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
inshallah. Okay, let's quickly read this and then get on to the next one. So it says, وَالنُّقَدُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ بَيْنَ الْحَدِّ لأن به يعرف حقيقة كل ما نريد ذكره إن شاء الله تعالى. والحد هو عبارة عن المقصود بما يحصره ويحيط به إحاطة تمنع من أن يدخل فيه ما ليس فيه وأن يخرج منه ما هو منه. Right? So it includes everything that is included in it and excludes everything that's not included in it. It doesn't exclude something that is included in it, right? ومن حكم الحد أن يضطرد وينعكس. It should be consistent, right? So you do the opposite of it. It is not that thing. ويوجد المحدود بوجوده ويعدم بعدمه. Right? That if you have that definition, that thing is there, and if you don't have that definition, the thing is not there. Right? So that's what he's going to say there. He says, وَأَمَّا الْعِلْمُ فَهُوَ مَعْرِفَةُ الْمَعْلُومِ عَلَى مَا هُوَ عَلَيْهِ وقالت المعتزلة هو اعتقاد الشيء على ما هو به مع سكون النفس إليه وهذا غير صحيح لأنه يبطل باعتقاد العام فيما يعتقده فإن هذا المعنى موجود فيه وليس ذلك بعام. Right? So his definition of ilm here is not super amazing, but we will come inshallah to this next week. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.
جزاكم الله.